Hey everyone, I'm Joe, and I'm a theologian who loves movies and music and television and all things pop culture. I really like to see how these things intersect with theology, and I invite you along in on the conversation. Remember, this is a Theo Bro free zone. We're not interested in debate or arguing, just in conversation. Hey everybody, just a quick note before the video begins. I apologize for the quality of the video. I'm still getting used to it all. Hi everyone, so I am joined by my brother Dan. Say hi, Dan.
Hey.
So a part of this channel is conversation, and I invited my brother so we can both react to Mr. Mister's 80s song, Kyrie, primarily because we're both Gen Xers. And I just thought too, it's an interesting song. Dan, I invited you primarily also because obviously you're Catholic, and I would, and this is not a slam, but I would argue your understanding of faith probably comes from a more orthodox position. Mine clearly is not. And so I just thought it would be interesting to have this conversation.
I've always loved the opening music.
Yeah.
Hard against this mountainside, across the sea into my soul. It reaches into where I cannot hide, setting my feet upon the road. My heart is old, it holds my memories. Body burns a gem-like flame, somewhere between the soul and soft machine is where I find myself again. Kyrie lays on down the road that I must travel. Kyrie lays on through the darkness of the night. Kyrie lays on where I'm going. Follow. Kyrie lays on a highway in the night. When I was young, I thought of growing old, of what my life would mean to me. But I have followed down my chosen road. What I could be. Kyrie lays on down the road that I must travel. Kyrie lays on through the darkness of the night. Kyrie
classic
Yeah.
song. So one of the lines that I think is interesting from that song is that the wind reaches into where I cannot hide. And I immediately, when I read that, I thought of the 139th Psalm.
Mhm.
It goes something like, where can I go to flee from your
Mhm.
presence? I go to the heavens.
Yeah,
You're
if
there.
I go to the, yeah.
Yeah, and I one of the things that reminds me of is this idea. There's so many ways that you can take that. This idea that God is all around us, that there's nowhere we can go where God is not. But I was also thinking too, if you wanted to broaden it, this idea that life is sacred. Everything in life is sacred. And if we want to push the boundaries even further into like non-religious, this idea that life is all around us, that there's, the wind reaches into where I cannot hide.
Mhm.
Like there's nowhere, whatever,
Right.
whatever the wind is a metaphor for.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that ties into what I picked up when he said, through the darkness of the night, that no matter what you're going through, what your state is in life, God is there. That even in my darkness, there is God, and I recognize it. That's the thing.
What do you make of the line where he says somewhere between the soul and soft machine is where I find what does that mean to you? Somewhere
to me, yeah, I actually thought about that several years ago, the soul and soft machine, because obviously the body, the soft machine, I guess that was the way I took it, as instead of just a what was the police, the song from the Police that talked about the machine, where it's a little bit, he tried to make it a little more, fleshy, a little more incarnate, if you will, that you're between the flesh and the spirit, like Paul says, I'm always battling flesh and spirit.
And interesting though, he said in the line though, he says, that's where I find myself.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he means that's where I am right now, or
Could
that's
be.
in order to understand myself better. It's between the soul and the soft machine.
It's a both and, right? It's not an either or. You don't want to eschew one for the other.
One of the things too that I really liked in that is when he talks in the line, Kyrie eleison, where I'm going, will you follow? Notice it's the complete opposite of sort of the sister act. I will follow you.
Yeah, right.
That one. This one's in process theology, which I really dig. Process theology in that system, God is not immutable. So God is not non-changing. In other words, in process theology, just as we evolve and we react to our world, so too God evolves. And I really like in process theology this idea that no matter what road we travel down, God follows us. Mm-hmm. And I really like in process theology that idea that it's not, okay, I'm following God. It's no, God's following me. What do you make of that?
I mean, I've never heard that before, so I'm trying to process it as you speak. I mean, I've heard the term the hound of heaven. God is the hound of heaven. He will always chase us. He will always go after us. And I look at it like, again, we're the ones that are going to fall and stumble and go our way. And it is a question: will you follow? Are you going to follow me, God? Because this is the only way I know right now.
Right.
You're not going to abandon me, right? That's the way I maybe see it.
But don't you think it's not? Do you think that it's not so much? This is where, I mean, we always do that. You said this is where I'm going right now. Will you follow? Implying that there could be another way. We always go our own route in a way, right?
Well, we discover, we can turn, we can change, we can take different paths, certainly, and that's part of the human condition, is always evolve. We're always on a journey. We're pilgrims. we're on this journey. My take is that God never changes because he's God. He's perfect. He doesn't need us to help him. We need him to help us. So
can I challenge you on that?
Sure.
Just in that, like, I think one of the things I like about process theology is it really puts us, the idea is that it puts us in relationship with the divine. So in other words, in order for there to be a true relationship, there has to be a give and take, right? In other words, think of it naturalistically, like everything is in relationship with everything else. So in other words, if I'm a fish, I'm in water, my existence as a fish has a relationship to the water.
Mhm.
The water also is changed because me, the fish, and is swimming through
Sure.
it. Or think of a water and rock, even if we think
Right.
rocks are impenetrable, right? The
Yeah.
idea is the water has a relationship with the rock because it,
Yep.
it's going to affect the water, but the water is also going to have an effect on the rock.
Sure, over
And so
time.
this
Yeah.
idea that God doesn't change, but the reason I don't like is it implies then, however, that the divine is not moved by us. And I like the idea that to be truly in relate, that God evolves, that as we are in relationship with God, however you envision that, that God also changes as a result.
And see, I would take it as you compared rocks, water, fish, humans. Those are created,
Right.
whereas God is the creator. So while we experience change and we experience obviously the only thing we can on that level, on that created level, because we are created, God is again immutable. Our response is to again change ourselves to get closer to the divine. We're not divine. We even though we share in the divinity. But it is interesting you say that, because even the incarnation somehow could be argued a change,
Right.
right? And that's that's way
Right.
over my
That's a
pay grade.
different reaction video.
Exactly. But no, yeah, I mean that whole notion is just, like I said, I've spent 30 seconds even considering it, so it's hard for me to even
right. Yeah, it's hard to. That's part of, I guess, the limitation of these kind of reaction videos is we're covering some big material, and yet we're trying to condense it into such a short amount of time.
Right.
One of the things I do want to switch with, now obviously the song Kyrie eleison is it's Lord have mercy, right? It comes from the Western and Eastern Christian traditions in their theological or ritual traditions, liturgical traditions. There's a book by a German theologian who's also a cardinal in the Catholic Church. It's called Mercy by Walter Casper, and in that book, he talks about how he realized that mercy is a central theme in scripture, but when you go to systematic theology, mercy is rarely talked about. And he says he really doesn't like that. And he talks about, especially in the face of tragedy and injustice, that he mentions usually in the 20th and 21st centuries, when we reflect on the sorrow that exists in the world, the idea that so many things seem super unjust, that it becomes hard to believe in the idea of a merciful God. Well, how would you define mercy, like Kyrie eleison? Like, how would you define that for yourself?
Yeah, God's mercy is an ocean. It's bottomless. I mean, he is mercy. God is love, and that love ties into mercy. It is God is all forgiving. God is, that's the way I see it. And I, reflecting on what you were just talking about, the 21st century, because again, thinking about it from, like you said, injustices, the human reaction is to, take care of it, go for the retribution. And you see that, of course, more today, especially online, everyone's going after each other because that's our response. And yet, as Christians, we're called, hey, time out. That's not the answer. Mercy certainly is a higher response, not the easy response. Certainly, it's easier to just go after the person that you felt unjust, who did something. But the mercy, it's hard. It's hard because you have to have it. You have to have an understanding, I think, of mercy too, and that's why if we understand the nature of forgiveness through the cross, through the crucifixion, we should be able to reflect. Even the Our Father says that, we forgive as you've forgiven us. We are called to forgive. So
what about
as we-
injustice? Like Casper talks about in his book, he uses the analogy. He talks about Dostoevsky's book, The Brothers Karamazov. And he talks about that scene where the child has been murdered, and it was such an injustice that the idea religiously of thinking, well, put up with this injustice until you get your reward in heaven. He said, if that's the character in the novel says, if that's the price to pay, here you can have my ticket to heaven because I want nothing to do with it. And I thought that's really, so how would you explain mercy in the face of injustice?
Again, God's mercy is beyond that. It's beyond the human experience of what we want and what we feel we need. I mean, there is that call in it. There is that desire in us. And I guess it's been given to us by God to want justice. We have to recognize justice, but the type of justice as eye for an eye, or whatever you want to call it, where retribution is involved, is hard to reconcile against the cross. You know, when you say the word Kyrie eleison, you know, it brought back. I watched the video a couple of years ago, and when you look at the comments, all these people are saying, "Dude, all my life I heard him say carry a laser." I mean, you know, but I picked up on it immediately. I'm sure you picked up on it as Catholics because we heard it in the mass.
Yeah, of course,
in fact,
of course.
There was a local DJ one time saying, I don't know what he's talking about, but it's a good song. And I called him up. I called the radio station. Yeah. I said, it means Lord have mercy. Now I got it wrong because I didn't understand. I said, it's Latin, but of course it's Greek, you know, but I said, it's Latin for Lord have mercy. At least I knew that part of it.
Pope Francis talks about mercy a lot. And one of the things he said that I find really interesting is that in English, the word mercy is a noun. But in Spanish and in Latin, it's a verb.
Yeah.
And I love that idea that mercy is not a noun, it's something we do.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to push the analogy even further. Me personally, this is just Joe's idea, is that so it is with God. In other words, God is not a noun, God is a verb. And I think that's very process theology as well. This idea that God is that when we're talking about God, we're talking about a verb, not a noun.
Absolutely.
And so I'm wondering if this idea of if we engage in mercy, if we verb mercy and we do mercy, we are doing God.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I mean, love, start with that. Love is a verb, you know, God is love. And like I said, mercy is wrapped in that as well. It's all together. So what's that one phrase? Do mercy, love God. I mean, I forgot what it is. And, you know,
I think it's Micah, love, tenderness.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, absolutely. I agree 100% on that.
Awesome. Well, listen, Dan, thanks for joining me.
Sure.
This was
great.
Fun.
Yeah.
So thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, hit the like and subscribe button down below. In addition, if there's some movie or television show or music that has meaning for you that you'd like me to react to, just throw those down in the comments as well. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.